From the unexplained to the mundane, come join us on a journey to the fringe. Hello and welcome to Journey to the Fringe. Here, doing weirdly a topical episode for once. I think it's been a long time coming. Chelsea, we are actually doing something that is in the news now, as opposed to 10 years past.
You know what is so funny? I have had multiple podcast episodes pop up on this without spoiling what it is. Watch me say it before you do. And I totally disregarded it. I have no idea what's going on in the news with it.
That is fantastic to hear, because you can't call me out on my bullshit now. Anyhow, we are your podcast hosts, Taylor and Chelsea, here today covering the phenomenon that is the missing or dead scientists in North America.
With weird timing.
Very weird timing with regards to that. And I think that actually spurred me into doing this episode, the news that happened on Monday. This was on my burner of episodes to get to. And that kind of pushed me into, he's going to be grouped into this group. Yeah. So we have to. David Wilcox. Sorry, for those that skipped Wednesday, David Wilcox going to be clumped into this group. I have seen the number changed recently. I don't know for sure whether or not it's to include David Wilcox.
Interesting.
But right now, what has been making its way around is 11 scientists have either been murdered or missing across the U.S. in a short period of time. I don't know, Chelsea, have you heard somebody put together why they're doing it? Or is it just you've only heard that they've been murdered? Or
I've literally only heard the headline missing. You know what? I have heard it in the news, and it was the Sunday episode of David Wilcox. I did refer to that as news. Yes. That's all I've heard. Literally people saying missing and dead scientists. I know nothing more.
Well, Chelsea, I know I've seen the list extended to 12 recently. I have a list of 11 that was up to date as of last week. I have taken each person on that list. We're going to go through them, what their job was, what's happened to them during that time.
Okay.
If there's any explanation as to what's happening. We're going to break down this list to see if there's actually anything that needs to be looked at here, or why these people might be missing or dead. That brings it all together.
Okay, I'm looking forward to this.
Before we get too far into it, this is a heavy week apparently for Journey to the Fringe. I think it is important to start off with, we want it to be clear, we're going to be talking about a number of people who have died or disappeared under very different circumstances, and none of this is meant to make light of their lives or their families' grief. Some of these families are still going through the grief. Some of these are very recent.
Really? Like how recent?
Yes.
Or are we going to talk about it when we get to them?
I have the dates for everything. So
okay.
You'll hear.
I'll just wait in suspense.
Yeah. These are people with real stories, and the tragedy of their loss isn't up for debate. But to understand how their names ended up bundled together into a single viral narrative about missing scientists, we have to talk about the details of their deaths and disappearances. Our goal isn't to sensationalize this, it's to separate fact from fiction and look at how unrelated events get woven into a conspiracy that may or may not hold up under scrutiny. Today, Chelsea, we're going to get through a portion of the list. That portion of the list, I don't want to say what it is right off the bat because it kind of spoils it all, but you might put together as I get going what that part of the list is. The first person we're going to talk about, this is the name that actually started the list getting compiled, Major General William Neil McCasland. He was a retired Air Force official. He was known for his leadership at the Air Force Research Laboratory in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he went missing from his home in Albuquerque on February 27th, 2026.
Wow. Yeah, that's super recent.
He's not even the most recent. His phone, prescription glasses, wearable devices were found at home, but his hiking boots, wallet, and .38 caliber revolver were reported missing according to the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office. McCasland was linked to unidentified aerial phenomena research in the 2016 WikiLeaks release of John Podesta's emails. The messages highlighted his former leadership of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, a site frequently associated with Roswell-related UFO theories. Podesta's involvement in UFO disclosure initiatives is well documented throughout his service in both the Clinton and Obama administration. The Tom DeLonge led To the Stars Academy, a nonprofit associated with the UFO disclosure movement. The pair's collaboration on seemingly fringe science led some to speculate that public officials like McCasland were manipulating DeLonge into developing a UFO cover story for new classified American defense technology of a terrestrial origin. McCasland is the subject of an email dated January 25th, 2016 from Tom DeLonge DeLong to Podesta reportedly leaked on WikiLeaks, in which DeLong says of McCaslin, quote, "I've been working with him for 4 months. I just got done giving him a 4-hour presentation on the entire project a few weeks ago. Trust me, the advice has already been happening on how to do all this. He just has to say that out loud, but he is very, very aware, as he was in charge of all of the stuff. When Roswell crashed, they shipped it to the laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. General McCaslin was in charge of that exact laboratory up to a couple years ago. He not only knows what I'm trying to achieve, he helped assemble my advisory team. He's a very important man." Other speculation focused on a relationship between McCaslin and Michael Duggan, an Australian-American scientist at the AFRL at Kirtland Air Force Base, New Mexico, who spent years of his Air Force career in research on UFO phenomena. Duggan was an assistant to J. Allen Hynek, an astronomer who led the Air Force's infamous Project Blue Book, one of the first investigations of reported encounters with UFOs by the United States government. That's kind of the background for that part, Chelsea. It does seem a little strange. Right off the bat, Gone Missing has a pretty good UFO relationship.
Yeah, they're not necessarily exclusive to one another, but
yeah,
interesting, yes.
I do want to make something clear. He had been retired for several years at this point. This next part of his story is going to clear some things up. I don't think put anything cemented into the story, but let's listen to this.
Okay.
His wife told a 911 dispatcher he may have intentionally gone missing. Quote, "My husband is missing. It's been about 3 hours. I have some indication that he must have planned not to be found." End quote. Susan Wilkerson told a 911 dispatcher an audio obtained by Law and Crime Network. Quote, "I think he's on foot. All of our cars and bicycles are in the garage." End quote. Wilkerson explained that her husband had never done anything remotely like it before and doesn't generally carry a weapon. She did note that he's been, quote, "saying if his brain and body keep deteriorating, he doesn't want to live like that." End quote.
Was he having health problems?
Yes. She described McCaslin as very responsible, but said he was encountering medical issues and was seeing a doctor for anxiety, short-term memory loss, and lack of sleep.
Shit.
Susan Wilkerson McCaslin also told the Daily Mail that the speculation over her husband's disappearance is wide of the mark, answering with a categorical no when asked if she believed her husband's prior security clearance and past connections with UFO researchers had anything to do with his disappearance. In an impassioned social media post on March 6th, Susan hit out at the misinformation published since her husband went missing in late February and emphasized that while he did oversee a U.S. space weapons program during his career, he had been retired without security clearance for 13 years.
Yeah.
She also said his links to the UFO community via former Blink-182 frontman Tom DeLonge had long lapsed, adding that he knew the Roswell enthusiast briefly and had merely helped him out by acting as an unpaid consultant on a military matter for a novel he was writing. And that's what I put together for General McCaslin.
Okay, honestly, like, he could have been sending that email at the very moment he went missing and it might not be connected.
Yeah.
Just because that's what he's involved in doesn't necessarily make anything. You could make anything sound nefarious. You can make anything sound like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I want to make sure two things are clear from what I just read. Retired for 13 years and a general, not a scientist.
Yeah, okay. I hope the other... Not saying anything about your episode. I hope the other ones are better. I'm not sold on
I
him.
didn't make the list.
I can see why people are jumping to David Wilcock now.
Oh, Chelsea, you just wait until we read this next one. This is a woman by the name of Amy Eskridge.
Okay, I have heard her name somewhere. I don't know where, but I don't know anything.
No, I guarantee you've been seeing posts on Reddit of text messages between her and a friend saying that she would never commit suicide.
Oh, maybe I did, actually.
You see a lot of that on Reddit right now.
Maybe I did.
Amy Eskridge was the founder of the Institute of Exotic Sciences, which was a small private-run organization she founded with her father, who was a retired NASA engineer. It wasn't a university or a traditional research lab, but a public benefit corporation built around fringe physics interests like gravity modification, metamaterials, and advanced propulsions.
Interesting.
The kind of topics that sit well outside mainstream science. The Institute positioned itself as a home for ideas too controversial for conventional academia, yet there's no real record of peer-reviewed publications or recognized scientific output from them. In practice, it functioned more as a platform for speculative research and for Amy's own ambitions, blending her father's legitimate aerospace background with an increasingly unconventional scientific claims and the grandiose way she presents them. While Eskridge and the Institute publicly framed their mission around novel propulsions and anti-gravity concepts, the reporting and declassified contextual... And sorry, before I get too far into this, she committed suicide in 2022. June 11th, 2022.
What? Why am I just, why are you telling me I'm seeing a text message on Reddit now?
Because she is one of the 11 people on the missing or dead scientist list.
Where's this list? Is this the one you compiled, or is it somewhere?
Basically, if you find the 11 scientists, these are going to be the names you're going to see on it.
Oh, okay. It's just, out there. It's not like somebody compiled it and it's now a famous list.
It is a fairly famous list. This is the one that the White House is looking into.
Okay.
With these 11 names on it.
Okay, 2022 though. Okay.
While Eskridge and the Institute publicly framed their mission around novel propulsions and anti-gravity concepts, the reporting declassified contextual histories show no public, reproducible demonstrations or peer-reviewed publications emerging from the Institute that would substantiate a working anti-gravity technology. Mainstream reviews of gravity control research emphasize that agencies investigated ideas historically but produced no public breakthroughs. Independent online technical discussion notes that anti-gravity claims are highly disputed, with isolated small effect reports and a majority of failed replications. A pattern consistent with the absence of verified scalable results in open literature. At least one report says that Eskridge sought NASA approval to present novel anti-gravity findings, an action suggesting an attempt to engage formal institutional review, but publicly available material does not record a NASA-endorsed validation or an accepted conference presentation that produced community scrutiny or replication. Now, Eskridge dies on June 11, 2022 in Huntsville, Alabama. While authorities officially ruled her death a self-inflicted gunshot wound, several factors have contributed to ongoing public debate and intense scrutiny surrounding the case. In interviews and podcasts recorded prior to her death, Eskridge alleges that she and her team were being subjected to harassment and psychological warfare intended to stop her from work on anti-gravity and exotic physics at the Institute for Exotic Science. After Eskridge's death, several outlets and online forums amplified her institute's anti-gravity framing while linking her to a larger pattern of researchers' mysterious deaths. Those narratives have driven much public attention but do not add technical evidence of functional exotic propulsion that she was working on. Some conservative tabloid outlets connected the Institute and Eskridge to conspiratorial explanations, but the stories mainly recycle their self-description and the broader unresolved list of scientists who died or disappeared rather than providing new experimental verifications. One important thing too, the best I could find from Amy is that she had a Bachelor of Arts degree. She did not have a science degree. Her dad was an engineer for NASA. And that's the best connection I can find for an actual scientist here.
That is bizarre. Why would she be working on something like that with just an arts degree?
Well, here are some of the quotes from her as she would make presentations. I see connections other people miss. I understand things before experts do. I pick things up faster than anyone I've ever met. If I decide to learn something, I learn it completely. Give me a few months and I can know more than most people in any discipline. She kind of had a very high self-esteem, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds like someone whose father was involved in the research.
Or somebody who really knows how to bullshit to get people to invest in things.
Okay.
Because you're not going to find an actual genius who's going to say, I can learn any subject better than anybody in a few months.
Yeah, I could see the link people are making due to what she was working on, but that's weird.
And at the same time, she's making these statements. She's also saying people in power don't like what I know. They're trying to silence me because I'm right. I'm being watched. If people knew what I was doing, they'd understand why I'm being watched. However, she never releases who these people were other than people in power, and never released any of this knowledge that they feared she had. Which you think, if you're worried about somebody offing you for the knowledge you have, you would try to release that as fast as possible.
Exactly. Yeah.
In public statements, Eskridge's family explained that she suffered from chronic pain at the time of her suicide and declined to characterize her death as unusual. In the final months of her life, Amy Eskridge's behavior became noticeably erratic. She She grew increasingly isolated and fearful, telling people she believed she was being watched or targeted. Friends and colleagues described her as anxious, withdrawn, and not acting like herself, a shift that seemed to intensify alongside her chronic pain. Taken together, it paints a picture of someone under significant psychological strain rather than someone holding dangerous secrets. And I'm sorry, when people say I would never commit suicide, I've never had to make that statement before. Have you, Chelsea?
No.
It just screams of somebody who's been contemplating suicide in my mind.
It does, or sorry to say this here, but David Wilcock, because I've seen it surface the last little while, like 4 or 5 years ago, he posted a statement like that on Twitter. And it does seem like someone who has either contemplated it
or wants attention. I've seen that from that too.
Yeah, I would have to, yeah.
That story reminded me a lot of David Wilcock, which is why I was thinking he was going to be included on this list soon.
It rings a lot of bells, doesn't it?
Somebody who's a CEO who seems to bullshit about anti-gravity.
It all checked out, even right till the end there.
And like I said, no science degree, not an actual scientist. Died in 2022, so they had to really reach back to put her on this list.
Yeah.
Next up on the list is a woman by the name of Melissa Cassius. She was an administrative employee with security clearance at Los Alamos National Laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Cassius disappeared on June 26th of 2025 after being spotted walking alone in Taos County. Although her car and personal belongings were found at her home, family members noted that both her personal and work phones had been factory reset. Her family maintains that her disappearance was not voluntary, citing her plans to care for her mother following an upcoming surgery. But here's a clear thing we need to say again. She wasn't a scientist. She worked in a support role at Los Alamos National Laboratory.
I'm seeing big stretches here for scientists.
Yeah. And Chelsea, I think you've realized that this portion of the list are people who would not be considered traditional scientists.
Oh, I forgot I was supposed to be paying attention to that. That makes a lot of sense now. You had to come right out and say it because I wasn't doing it.
You said it, just not quite in the way you were supposed to.
Okay, well, my attitude's there.
She was last seen in Taos County, her car was found abandoned, and months later investigators still had no leads, no suspects, no signs of foul play. And people close to her said she talked about wanting to leave her life behind and start over at some point, and police treated her case as a voluntary disappearance rather than anything connected to national security or sensitive research. Her story is tragic, but it doesn't fit the pattern of a scientist going missing. And I found this really interesting. Her family hired a private detective to find her. Thomas McNally, a Phoenix-based private investigator hired by Cassia's parents, angrily told the Daily Mail that the speculation is causing huge amounts of distress to her family and could even lead to her case going unsolved. The former homicide detective told the Daily Mail, quote, "Let me just put that speculation to bed real quick. Melissa and her husband, Mark, both work at LANL, which is the research lab. Mark is in building construction, and Melissa, although her title was an administrative assistant, that's not really what she did. She was basically a purchaser. They would give her a list of things to buy at Walmart, and she would go and buy them. That was her job. When they ran into financial trouble, they both lost their clearance, and she was transferred to a position that required essentially no clearance whatsoever. I want to be emphatic on this point. This is in no way, shape, or form related to her job. I am beyond disgusted at the fact that the media is trying to tie this case to this government UFO conspiracy thing." End quote, he told the Daily Mail.
This is so crazy.
Yeah. Quote, "What the attention should be on is that there's a 53-year-old woman who's missing and has a family who loves her while the husband is out trying to date other women and doesn't care about her." End quote.
Oh, that took a turn.
For her dad, Joe Cassia's disappearance is agony. His quote, "We saw her on the day she went missing and she was in good spirits. There was nothing wrong with her at all. There's someone out there who knows a little or knows a lot, if you know what I mean. I look up at the mountains every day and I think of her. There's a lot of people who love her, who want her back." End quote. That's Melissa. Her family in no way thinks this has anything to do with her job. She had no clearance at the end, and even if she did, she was buying stuff for the lab. That's it.
Yeah, no, I don't see any connection at all either.
All right, next up we have here Anthony Chavez. Chavez was a retired professional who was working prior to retirement at Los Alamos National Laboratory, LANL. He disappeared on May 8th. Yep. There's
Like,
actually
same
a couple here for LANL. Yeah. He disappeared on May 8th, 2025. When authorities and family members searched for the 78-year-old's home, they found his wallet, keys, and other personal items left behind. His car was locked in the driveway, and there were no signs of forced entry or a struggle, according to Los Alamos Reporter. Chavez worked for decades at Los Alamos National Laboratory before retiring in 2017, placing him within the same northern New Mexico defense hub as others who have disappeared. Chavez, the oldest of the 4 missing from New Mexico, had been enjoying a quiet retirement in his modest wooden home in Los Alamos for over 2 decades when he went missing, with neighbors telling the Daily Mail that trying to link it to his former job amounts to a conspiracy theory. Neighbor Flora Kraus, 60, told the Daily Mail, quote, "Tony hadn't had any sort of security clearance for 20 years. He was retired. He kept himself mostly to himself, but we'd always see him riding his bike around the neighborhood. We've been taking care of his grass and keeping it nice for him." End quote. That's as much as I have on him. He's still missing. There's not a lot to the story, but nobody thinks it's connected to like UFOs.
Like,
or
how are
science.
people putting this list together where they see like an obituary or something and they're like cause of death? I wonder where they worked. Like, how is this even happening?
You know what? I should save the speculation for the end.
Okay.
Next up is Steven Garcia. This one is a really weird one to include on this list. Garcia was a government contractor with a high-level security clearance at the Kansas City National Security Campus, and he has been missing since leaving his Albuquerque home on August 28, 2025. Although police initially suggested Garcia might be a danger to himself after he was seen on surveillance footage carrying a handgun and leaving behind his vehicle and personal effects, sources familiar with the case have disputed claims that he was mentally unstable. Garcia's disappearance is notable for his proximity to fellow missing official McCasland and his oversight for sensitive assets within the U.S. nuclear weapons arsenal. He was a 48-year-old government contractor, not a scientist. He was a custodian. I've seen it described as a building manager, but I've also seen it described as a custodian. Responsible for overseeing millions of dollars worth of equipment. He held a low-level clearance because the facility he worked in, not because he was involved in research. He had to clean stuff, so he needed access.
Yeah, you need clearance to be in a building like that.
That was the last confirmed sighting. There's no evidence of foul play, no sign he was targeted, nothing to suggest his disappearance had anything to do with national security secrets. His case only enters this missing scientist narrative because of where he worked, not because of what he did or knew.
Yeah, sounds like all the other ones for...
The Daily Mail was unable to contact his wife Valerie, 43, but a neighbor said she does not believe his disappearance had anything to do with his job, and she said she believes it could have something to do with his previous military career instead.
Maybe like PTSD?
Yeah, it's still unexplained. It just seems weird, and it's not something that should be included on this list.
I would agree with that, especially with that last statement.
Next up is Nuno Loureiro. Loureiro died December 15th, 2025. He was fatally shot in his Brooklyn, Massachusetts home. NACT authorities have linked to a suspect also responsible for a mass shooting at Brown University days earlier. Primary suspect, Claudio Manuel Neves. And sorry, I should say, it does come up, he's a professor of... he was the director... Sorry, here it is,
probably
right
the
here.
Closest to a scientist that we've seen so
Yeah, but not quite a scientist because he was teaching,
Yeah.
is how I kind of put it.
Yeah, but still closer than anyone else so far.
Loureiro was the director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center and a world-renowned expert in nuclear fusion and magnetic reconnection. Loureiro was shot in the foyer of his apartment where he lived on the evening of December 15, 2025. He was transported to Beth Israel Deacon's Medical Center in Boston with gunshot wounds where he's pronounced dead early on December 16. Authorities opened a homicide investigation that received widespread publicity. Portugal's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Paulo Rangel, announced his death to the Parliament of Portugal. The President of Portugal, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, issued a statement calling this death an irreplaceable loss for science, and the U.S. ambassador to Portugal released a statement with condolences. MIT President Sally Kornbluth published a message to the MIT community and professors from across the university, made public remarks regarding Loureiro's life and work. A vigil was held in his home in Brooklyn. On December 18th, the authorities announced that they were investigating a link between Loureiro's murder and a mass shooting that happened at Brown University 2 days prior that killed 2 and injured 9. Authorities confirmed the link later that day at a press conference announcing the suicide of the lone suspect in the Brown University shooting, Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, a Portuguese national. The Connecticut State Police Forensic Science Lab confirmed that one of the firearms found with Valente matched the weapon used in Loureiro's murder. So he was murdered. It's very unfortunate. I don't have much else outside of that other than school shootings are a terrible plight on society.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is odd that he was shot outside of it like 2 days later, but at the same time, it was a mass killing spree nonetheless.
Yeah.
I would like to add too, he didn't actually work in any top secret areas. He worked for a public university.
Yeah, I see why he's under this one.
And the last one on the list for today is Jason Thomas. Thomas was a scientist and director. I'm not sure if he can be classified as a
okay.
It might be.
I got excited.
The full title, when you read it from news articles, he's described as a scientist. So I'm going to say a scientist and director at Novartis. He went missing from his home in Wakefield, Massachusetts in December of 2025. His body was recovered from Lake Quannapowitt in March 2026, 3 months after he went missing. Police have found no evidence of foul play.
Okay.
Sorry, this story's really sad.
Oh, no.
Shortly before he vanished, Thomas lost both of his parents. His wife, Kristen Bartoli, told NBC Boston his mother had recently died from dementia. Not even 2 hours later, his father died in his arms of a heart attack.
Oh,
Bartoli said, describing him as a loving husband, a fur dad of 5 dogs, Dazzle, Prosecco, Champagne, Saint Germain, and Fireball, and a proud uncle.
Those are good names.
Thomas was working at Novartis as an assistant director of chemical biology. That's the actual title. I can see how you get scientist from it, but his actual title was not a scientist. Mm-hmm. This company is also in the pharmaceutical and biotech sector. First one in that category. It sounds like somebody who had a really hard spot in life at that point, though.
Ugh.
And basically what happened, he went for a walk, fell into a frozen pond, and then it refroze over, and they couldn't find him for 3 months.
Ugh, that's sad.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the list so far, Chelsea. How are we feeling about everything?
Pretty sad. I'm gonna not go into the dark place. I don't see connection with these, as I've said throughout. 2 scientists, 2 missing people. Like I said before, I mean, you could be a scientist and it's not necessarily exclusive, but maybe I'll think otherwise in the next episode.
Yeah, and I'm saving the ones that I would actually consider scientists for the second episode.
Here's the thing. If you have a list, leave the list. If there's good ones, which I presume I'm gonna get next week, why put in this stuff? Why do it?
My theory on that is you include as much as you can to make it overwhelming evidence of something going on. A list of, what do I have left? I think we covered 7. I think there's 4 in the next episode. So a list of 4 scientists doesn't sound as good as a list of 11 scientists.
I don't know. To me, it sounds a lot better if they're compelling and they make me think there might be something afoot here. But when you add in these things, it makes me think like there might not be. But that's just me.
Yeah, you guys got to still tune in next week and see.
Yeah.
I have been Taylor, here with Chelsea. We are Journey to the Fringe. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Journey to the Fringe. If you have liked what you have listened to, please like, share, subscribe, or follow, depending on what venue you are listening to us through. Also, please, if possible, leave a 5-star review, as that really helps us in the algorithms. Should you wish to interact with us, please check us out on your social media of choice. I bet you we are there. And if you really want to communicate with us and give us ideas for new episodes, or tell us that we're wrong and terrible, either way, please send us an email at journeytothefringe@gmail.com. For now, I'll see you in the next episode.